The spoon chimed against the crystal champagne flute. Cling, cling, cling. The sound cut through the murmurs of 300 guests. It was a piercing sound, expensive, just like everything else in this room. I stood up. My legs felt heavy, but my hand was steady. I adjusted my tie. Silk, Armani. A spotlight hit me. It was blindingly bright. To my right, my new wife, Yumi, looked up at me. She was beaming. Her face was flushed with expensive sake and victory. She looked like a porcelain doll in a $20,000 custom kimono. Beside her sat her mother, Mrs. Sato, the dragon lady. She wasn't smiling. She never smiled. She was scanning the room, counting the red envelopes, calculating the net worth of the guest list. The room went silent. I looked out at the sea of faces, my college friends from Stanford, my colleagues from the tech startup I helped build, and Yumi's family, traditional, stern, expectant. They were all waiting for a toast. They were waiting for me to gush about how lucky I was, about how Yumi was the light of my life. I gripped the microphone. My knuckles were white. "Thank you all for coming," I said. My voice echoed in the massive ballroom of the Imperial Hotel. "We've spent a lot of money to be here today. About $150,000 to be exact." A few polite chuckles. Mrs. Sato's eyes narrowed slightly, but honestly, I continued, my tone dropping an octave. "You can't put a price on the truth." I reached into my pocket. I didn't pull out a speech. I pulled out a small, black remote control. Yumi's smile faltered. Just a fraction. She tilted her head. "Kenji-kun, what are you doing?" "I decided to make a special video presentation," I said into the mic, "to celebrate the real love story here." I pointed the remote at the massive 4K projector screen behind us, the screen that was supposed to show a montage of our childhood photos. "Hit the lights," I commanded. The ballroom plunged into darkness. The screen flickered to life. It wasn't a baby picture. It was grainy, night vision footage, time-stamped 3 nights ago. The audio crackled, and then a voice filled the room. Yumi's voice, clear as a bell. "God, I can't wait until this wedding is over. 2 years, Kaito. Just 2 years. Then we take half his shares and leave him with nothing." The air was sucked out of the room. I looked down at Yumi in the dark. I couldn't see her face, but I could hear the sound of her expensive crystal glass shattering on the floor. But let me back up. I need to tell you how I went from a happy groom to the architect of their destruction. I've always been the good guy. Study hard, get good grades, respect your elders. I'm a 3rd-generation Japanese American. I grew up with those values burned into my DNA. I grinded in my 20s. I built a fintech startup with 2 college buddies. We exited last year. I did well, very well. But I didn't buy a Lambo. I didn't buy a yacht. I bought a nice, sensible house in the Bay Area. I invested. I stayed humble. But I was lonely. Enter Yumi. We met at a cultural festival in Japantown. She was manning a calligraphy booth. She seemed perfect. Soft-spoken, elegant, traditional. She wasn't interested in my job. She didn't ask about my bank account. He asked about my family, my hobbies. We started dating. For the first 6 months, it was bliss. She would make me bento boxes for lunch, cute little characters made out of rice. She would listen to me vent about coding bugs for hours. She seemed so supportive. Then I met the mother, Mrs. Sato. The first dinner was intense. She didn't ask me what I loved about her daughter. She asked me about my 401k. She asked about my family's lineage. She asked if I owned my house outright or if there was a mortgage. "Kenji-san," she said, sipping tea like a judge sipping the blood of the innocent. "Yumi is a delicate flower. She requires stability." "I can provide stability," I promised. I wanted to impress her. I wanted to be the worthy suitor. That was my first mistake. The mask started to slip after we got engaged. It wasn't immediate, it was gradual, like a slow gas leak. First, it was the ring. I bought a beautiful 1.5 carat diamond, high clarity. It cost me 12 grand. Yumi looked at it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's cute, she said. Cute? Mom just thought, well, with your success, maybe something a bit more substantial to show face. I felt a pang of guilt. Was I being cheap? I upgraded the ring, 2.5 carats, 30 grand. Mrs. Sato nodded approvingly. Better. It shows you are serious. I thought that was the end of it. I was an idiot. That ring was just the appetizer. Mrs. Sato was preparing for a buffet, and I was the main course. The wedding planning began. I suggested a nice vineyard in Napa, maybe 100 guests, intimate, classy, budget, $40,000. Yumi cried, actual tears. Kenji, my family, they're coming from Japan. We can't have it in a field. It's a vineyard, Yumi. It's 5 stars. Mom says it looks like a farm. She wants the Imperial Hotel. Or the Ritz. I caved. We booked the hotel ballroom. The guest list exploded. 100 people became 200, then 300. I didn't know half of them. Who is Mr. Tanaka? I asked, scrolling through the spreadsheet. He's my mom's second cousin's neighbor. He's very influential, Yumi said, dismissing me with a wave of her hand. The budget crept up. $50,000, $80,000, $100,000. Flowers, $15,000. Imported orchids. Dress, $12,000. Vera Wang custom. Sake, tower, $5,000. Every time I tried to push back, Mrs. Sato would intervene. Kenji-san, do you not value my daughter? Is she not worth it? She knew exactly which buttons to push. The honor button. The provider button. I was drowning in invoices. But the biggest red flag wasn't the money. It was Kaito. Yumi introduced him as her cousin from Osaka. He was a DJ. He looked like a K-pop wannabe, bleached hair, leather jacket, smelled like vape juice and arrogance. He was staying at Yumi's apartment. She hadn't moved in with me yet, per tradition. He's family, Yumi said. He's going to be my man of honor. Man of honor? Is that a thing? It is now, she snapped. Kaito was everywhere. He came to the dress fittings. He came to the cake tastings. He ordered the most expensive items on the menu and let me pick up the check. He called me tech bro with a sneer. You got soft hands, tech bro, he said one night at dinner, grabbing another lobster tail. Real men work with their bodies. I looked at his hands. They were manicured. What do you do again, Kaito? I asked. I'm an entrepreneur, like you, just underground. I brushed it off. I was busy working 60-hour weeks to pay for this circus. Then came the ultimatum. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mrs. Sato sat me down. Kenji, we need to talk about the house. My house? What about it? It is premarital asset. It is yours. If something happens, Yumi has nothing. Nothing is going to happen, Mrs. Sato. I want you to buy a new house before the wedding and put it in Yumi's name as a gift, a gesture of trust. I laughed. I actually laughed. Mrs. Sato, homes in this area are $2 million. I can't just buy one as a gesture. Her face turned into stone. Then maybe you are not ready for marriage. Yumi wouldn't speak to me for 3 days. I was stressed. I was exhausted. I was gaslit. But I still loved her. Or I thought I did. I thought it was just wedding stress. I convinced myself it would all be better after the honeymoon. I was ready to sign the papers. I was ready to compromise on the house later. I was a blind fool walking into a buzzsaw. 3 days before the wedding, the cousin, Kaito, had crashed his rental car. Yumi called me in a panic. "Kenji, you have to help. He's at the station. He doesn't speak good English." I sighed. I left work early. I went to the station. I bailed him out. I drove him back to Yumi's apartment. He was drunk. He passed out on the sofa immediately. Yumi wasn't home. She was at a final fitting with her mom. I sat down in the kitchen, rubbing my temples. I saw Kaito's phone on the counter. It was buzzing, relentlessly. I glanced at it. A text preview popped up. "Contact. My love, Yumi." My heart stopped. Cousins don't save each other as my love. I stared at the phone. I knew the passcode. I saw him type it in earlier when I bailed him out. 1234, an idiot's code for an idiot. My hands were shaking. I picked it up. I unlocked it. I opened the messages. My world collapsed. It wasn't just a few texts. It was months, years, photos, videos, explicit, dates, times. While I was coding late to pay for the venue, she was with him. While I was being lectured by Mrs. Sato about honor, they were laughing at me. I scrolled back. I needed to see the extent of it. And then I found the conversation from last week. Yumi, he's refusing to buy the house before the wedding. He's so stubborn. Kaito, don't worry, babe. Stick to the plan. We get married. You tolerate him for 2 years. California law says we can claim lifestyle support. We get half the shares, half the 401k. Yumi, I know, it's just so hard to pretend. He's so boring. He touches me and my skin crawls. Mrs. Sato group chat, patient's daughter. The fish is on the hook. Do not scare him. 2 years is nothing for a lifetime of wealth. Kaito can stay in the guest house once you get the new place. Bile rose in my throat. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I looked at myself in the mirror. Pale, sweat on my forehead. I looked like a ghost, the ghost of the man I used to be. They weren't just cheating. This was a heist, a long con. Mrs. Sato wasn't a protective mother. She was the ringleader. Kaito wasn't a cousin. He was the boyfriend. And I wasn't the groom. I was the mark, the piggy bank. I washed my face. I felt something shift inside me. The sadness evaporated. The heartbreak vanished. It was replaced by something cold, something sharp. Absolute nuclear rage. But I didn't scream. I didn't wake Kaito up and beat him to a pulp. That would be too easy. That would be messy. I looked at the phone again. I needed this. I needed everything. I pulled out my laptop from my bag. I connected his phone. I initiated a full backup. Photos, texts, voice memos. It took 20 minutes. Kaito snored on the couch the entire time. I wiped my fingerprints off the phone and placed it back exactly where it was. I walked out of the apartment. I sat in my car. I dialed a number. Not Yumi. I called a private investigator I used for background checks at my company. "Mike," I said. "I have a job. It's a rush order. I have 72 hours before my wedding." "What do you need?" Mike asked. "I need you to verify everything. I have the texts. I need physical proof. Video, 4K. I want to see their faces. Consider it done." I hung up. I looked at the venue contract on my passenger seat. The $150,000 non-refundable deposit. Most guys would cancel. Most guys would run. But I wasn't going to run. I paid for a show. I was going to give them a show. I had 48 hours. I didn't sleep. I ran on espresso and adrenaline. Step 1, the lawyer. I met with my family attorney at 6 a.m. I showed him the texts. I showed him the plan to divorce me in 2 years. He was horrified. This is conspiracy to commit fraud, Kenji. We can annul this. No, I said, not yet. I want them to sign the marriage license. I want them to commit to the fraud publicly. We moved all my liquid assets into a protected trust. I drafted a fake deed for a house. It looked real. It had a fancy seal, but it wasn't filed with the county. It was worth less than the paper it was printed on. Step 2, the evidence. Mike, the PI, came through. He tailed Yumi and Kaito. They weren't even hiding it. They went to a motel 3 blocks from Yumi's parents' house. Mike got video, 4K resolution, walking and holding hands, kissing in the parking lot, and the audio, pure gold. Mrs. Sato was involved too. Mike recorded a phone call Yumi took on the balcony. Mom, don't worry. He's such a beta. I'll have him sign the house over before the cake is cut. Step 3, the venue. I went to the hotel. I spoke to the AV manager. I slipped him $500. No matter what anyone says, I told him, do not cut the feed. Only I give the signal. He nodded. He didn't care. He just wanted the tip. Step 4, the performance. This was the hardest part. I had to go to the rehearsal dinner. I had to smile at Yumi. I had to bow to Mrs. Sato. I had to shake Kaito's hand. Bro, big day coming up, Kaito smirked. You nervous? Terrified, I said, staring dead into his eyes. You have no idea. Please? Mrs. Sato pulled me aside. The house papers, Kenji? Did you sign them? It's in process, Mrs. Sato. I have the documents in my bag for the reception. A surprise gift for Yumi. Her eyes lit up. Pure greed. Good boy. You are finally learning. I watched them eat. I watched them laugh. They were drinking champagne I paid for. They were celebrating their victory. They had no idea. They were celebrating their funeral, the wedding day. The ceremony was a blur. I stood at the altar. Yumi walked down the aisle. She looked beautiful, but all I saw was a monster. We said our vows. I promised to be faithful, she said. I almost laughed. I promised to honor you. I said, I didn't specify how. We signed the marriage certificate. The trap was sprung. Legally, they had now attempted to defraud me. Then came the reception. The ballroom was magnificent. 300 guests, the cream of the crop. Of the community, Yumi changed into her second dress, a red kimono, symbolizing luck, happiness. Irony is dead. We ate, we drank. Mrs. Sato was hovering, waiting for the house announcement. Kaito was at the head table, acting like the doting cousin. Then came the speeches. My best friend Dave gave a great toast. Yumi's dad mumbled something nice. Then it was my turn. I stood up. This brings us back to the hook. I tapped the glass. Get the lights. The room went dark. The video started. It began with the text messages scrolling on the screen. Huge font, readable from the back row. 2 years, Kaito. Just 2 years. A gasp rippled through the room. Then, the video footage. The motel parking lot. The kiss. Mrs. Sato's voice on the recording. The fish is on the hook. The room erupted. It wasn't just silence anymore. It was chaos. I looked at the head table. Yumi was frozen. Her face was gray. Mrs. Sato was standing up, screaming, "Turn it off! It's fake! It's AI! Turn it off!" She lunged for the projector cord, but I had hired security. 2 large men stepped in front of her. "Please sit down, ma'am," one of them said. The video continued. It showed Kaito mocking Yumi's grandmother. It showed Yumi laughing about how stupid her father was for believing her lies. That was the final nail. Yumi's father stood up. He was a quiet man, honorable. He looked at the screen. He looked at his wife. He looked at his daughter. He walked over to Kaito. Bam. One punch. Square in the jaw. Kaito fell out of his chair. The room went wild. Guests were filming with their phones. I picked up the microphone one last time. There will be no cake, I said calmly, and there is no house. The marriage is annulled. Please enjoy the gift bags on your way out. They contain copies of the evidence. I dropped the mic. I walked off the stage. I walked past Yumi. She was sobbing, grabbing my pant leg. Kenji, please! It's a mistake! I can explain! I didn't even look down. I kicked her hand away. I walked out of the ballroom, down the hall, and into a waiting Uber. I left them with the bill. That was 6 months ago. The fallout was nuclear. The video went viral in our local community. Mrs. Sato couldn't show her face at the grocery store. The Sato name, which she prized above all else, was Mud. Yumi's father divorced Mrs. Sato. He apologized to me personally. He was a victim too. He had no idea what they were planning. Yumi, she tried to sue me for emotional distress and revenge porn. My lawyer laughed her out of court. Since the video was taken in public places, parking lot, or was from a phone I legally had access to, long story, but we argued. Shared device usage, the judge threw it out. Plus, the fraud attempt was documented. The annulment was granted in record time. I didn't pay a dime in alimony. In fact, I sued her for the cost of the wedding. The judgment went in my favor. She has to pay me back $150,000. She's working double shifts at a department store to make the payments. Kaito? He bailed the second the money dried up. He's back in Osaka, probably scamming someone else. As for me, I took the refund money I got from some of the vendors. Sympathy refunds are real. And went to Europe. I spent a month in Italy. I met someone. Her name is Elena. She's an architect. She doesn't care about my money. She buys her own coffee. We're taking it slow, but yesterday, Mrs. Sato tried to call me. Unknown number. I answered, Kanji-san, please, we are destitute. Have mercy. I didn't say a word. I just played a recording of her own voice into the phone. The fish is on the hook, and then I hung up. Forever.